Package org.paros proxy.paros.extension.scanner. Import java.awt.component. Import java.awt.event queue. Import java.awt.frame. Import java.awt.gridbag constraints. Import java.awt.gridbag layout. Import java.awt.grid layout. Import java.awt.headless exception. Import javax.swing.jbutton. Import javax.swing.jpanel. Import javax.swing.jscrollpane. Import org.paros proxy.paros.core.scanner.host process. Import org.paros proxy.paros.extension.abstract dialog. To change the template for this generated type comment, go to Window, Preferences, Java, Code Generation, Code and Comments. Public class progress dialog extends abstract dialog. Private jpanel equals null. Private jscrollpane pane scroll equals null. Private jbutton tunstopl host equals null. Private jpanel pane progress equals null. Private extension scanner plugin scanner equals null. At throws headless exception. Public progress dialog, throws headless exception. Super. Initialize. At param arg0. At param arg1. At throws headless exception. Public progress dialog, frame arg0, boolean arg1, throws headless exception. Super, arg0, arg1. Initialize. This method initializes this. At return void. Private void initialize. This dot set title, scanning. This dot set name, progress dialog. This dot set default closey operation, javax.swing.windowConstants.dispose_on_close. This dot set content pane, get jpanel. This dot set size, 440, 550. This dot add window listener, new java.awt.event.window-adapter. Public void window closing, java.awt.event.window-event-e. Get tunstopl host, do click. This method initializes jpanel. At return javax.swing.jpanel. Private jpanel get jpanel. If jpanel equals null. Java.awt.gridbag constraints gridbag constraints 7 equals new gridbag constraints. Java.awt.gridbag constraints gridbag constraints 6 equals new gridbag constraints. Jpanel equals new jpanel. Jpanel.set layout, new gridbag layout. Gridbag constraints 6.gridx equals 0. Gridbag constraints 6.grid equals 0. Gridbag constraints 6.weights equals 1.0. Gridbag constraints 6.weight equals 1.0. Gridbag constraints 6.fill equals java.awt.gridbag constraints.both. Gridbag constraints 6.insets equals new java.awt.insets, 2,2,2,2. Gridbag constraints 6.anchor equals java.awt.gridbag constraints.northwest. Gridbag constraints 7.gridx equals 0. Gridbag constraints 7.grid equals 1. Gridbag constraints 7.insets equals new java.awt.insets, 2,2,2,2. Gridbag constraints 7.anchor equals java.awt.gridbag constraints.southwest. Gridbag constraints 7.fill equals java.awt.gridbag constraints.horizontal. Gridbag constraints 7.weights equals 1.0d. Jpanel.add, get pane scroll, gridbag constraints 6. Jpanel.add, get tunstopl host, gridbag constraints 7. Return jpanel. This method initializes pane scroll. At return javax.swing.jscrollpane. Private jscrollpane get pane scroll. If pane scroll equals null. Pane scroll equals new jscrollpane. Pane scroll dots the horizontal scroll bar policy, javax.swing.jscrollPane.horizontal_scroll bar_never. Pane scroll.set viewport view, get pane progress. Return pane scroll. This method initializes tunstopl host. At return javax.swing.j button. Private j button get tunstopl host. If tunstopl host equals null. Tunstopl host equals new j button. Tunstopl host.set text, stop all hosts. Tunstopl host.add action listener, new java.awt.event.action listener. Public void action performed, java.awt.event.action event e. If plugin scanner equals null. Tunstopl host.set enabled, false. Plugin scanner.getScanner.stop. Return tunstopl host. This method initializes pane progress. At return javax.swing.jpanel. Private jpanel get pane progress. If pane progress equals null. java.awt.gridLayout gridlayout 8 equals new grid layout. Grid layout 8.set columns 1. Grid layout 8.set rows 5. Pane progress equals new jpanel. Pane progress.set layout, grid layout 8. Return pane progress. Void add host progress, final string host and port, final host process host thread. If event queue.is dispatch thread. Add host progress known event, host and port, host thread. Return. Try. Event queue.invoke and wait, new runnable. Public void run. Add host progress known event, host and port, host thread. Catch, exception e. Void remove host progress, final string host and port. If event queue.is dispatch thread. Remove host progress known event, host and port. Return. Try. Event queue.invoke and wait, new runnable. Public void run. Remove host progress known event, host and port. Catch, exception e. Void update host progress, final string host and port, final string message, final int percentage. If event queue.is dispatch thread. Update host progress known event, host and port, message, percentage. Return. Try. Event queue.invoke and wait, new runnable. Public void run. Update host progress known event, host and port, message, percentage. Catch, exception e. Private void add host progress known event, string host and port, host process host thread. Host progress meter equals new host progress meter. Meter.thost process, host thread. Meter.set name, host and port. Meter.getsThost, .set text, host and port. Synchronized, get pane progress. Get pane progress, .add, meter. Get pane progress, .validate. Private void remove host progress known event, string host and port. Host progress meter equals get meter, host and port. If meter equals null. Return. Synchronized, get pane progress. Get pane progress, remove, meter. Get pane progress, validate. Private void update host progress known event, string host and port, string test name, int percentage. Host progress meter equals get meter, host and port. If meter equals null. Return. Meter.set progress, test name, percentage. Private host progress meter get meter, string host and port. Synchronized, get pane progress. 4. Int I equals 0, I get pane progress, get component count, I++. Component C equals, component, get pane progress, get component, I. If, C.get name, equals, host and port. Return, host progress meter, C. Return null. At param plugin scanner the plugin scanner to set. Public void set plugin scanner, extension scanner plugin scanner. This .plugin scanner equals plugin scanner. At JVTICL index equals 0 visual constraint equals 10,10. Package org.paros proxy.paros.control. Import java.utility vector. Import org.paros proxy.paros.core.proxy.cache processing item. Import org.paros proxy.paros.core.proxy.proxy listener. Import org.paros proxy.paros.core.proxy.proxy server. Import org.paros proxy.paros.core.proxy.proxy servers as L. Import org.paros proxy.paros.model.model. To change the template for this generated type comment, go to Window, Preferences, Java, Code Generation, Code and Comments. Public class proxy. Private view equals null. Private model equals null. Private proxy server equals null. Private proxy servers as L equals null. Private boolean reverse proxy equals false. Private string reverse proxy host equals. Private vector cache processing list equals new vector. Public proxy, model. This .model equals model. Proxy server equals new proxy server. Proxy servers as L equals new proxy servers as L. Add by extension. Add proxy listener, new proxy listener log, model, view. Public void start server. Set proxy param put in here so restart can reread param. Proxy server.set proxy param, model.get options param, .get proxy param. Proxy server.set connection param, model.get options param, .get connection param. Proxy servers as L.set proxy param, model.get options param, .get proxy param. Proxy servers as L.set connection param, model.get options param, .get connection param. If model.get options param, .get proxy param, .icac reverse proxy. Int SSL port equals proxy servers as L.start server, model.get options param, .get proxy param, .get traverse proxy IP, model.get options param, .get proxy param, .get traverse proxy support, false. Proxy servers as L.start server, model.get options param, .get proxy param, .get traverse proxy IP, model.get options param, .get proxy param, .get traverse proxy support, false. Proxy server.set forward port, SSL port. Proxy server.start server, model.get options param, .get proxy param, .get traverse proxy IP, model.get options param, .get proxy param, .get traverse proxy port, false. Else. Int SSL port equals proxy servers as L.start server, model.get options param, .get proxy param, .get proxy IP, model.get options param, .get proxy param, .get proxy support, true. Proxy server.set forward port, SSL port. Proxy server.start server, model.get options param, .get proxy param, .get proxy IP, model.get options param, .get proxy param, .get proxy port, false. Public void stop server. If model.get options param, .get proxy param, .icac reverse proxy. Proxy servers as L.stop server. Proxy server.stop server. Else. Proxy server.stop server. Public void set serialize, boolean serialize. Proxy server.set serialize, serialize. Proxy servers as L.set serialize, serialize. Public void add proxy listener, proxy listener listener. Proxy server.add proxy listener, listener. Proxy servers as L.add proxy listener, listener. Public void remove proxy listener, proxy listener listener. Proxy server.remove proxy listener, listener. Proxy servers is l.remove proxy listener, listener. At return returns the reverse proxy. Public boolean I reverse proxy. Return reverse proxy. At param reverse proxy the reverse proxy to set. Public void reverse proxy, boolean reverse proxy. This dot reverse proxy equals reverse proxy. At return returns the reverse proxy host. Public string get reverse proxy host. Return reverse proxy host. At param reverse proxy host the reverse proxy host to set. Public void reverse proxy host, string reverse proxy host. This dot reverse proxy host equals reverse proxy host. At param enable kket processing the enable kket processing to set. Public void seed enable kket processing, boolean enable kket processing. If proxy server equals null. Proxy server dot seed enable kket processing, enable kket processing. If proxy servers is l equals null. Proxy servers is l dot seed enable kket processing, enable kket processing. Public void add cache processing list, cache processing item. If proxy server equals null. Proxy server dot add cache processing list, item. If proxy servers is l equals null. Proxy servers is l dot add cache processing list, item. Package org.paros proxy.paros.core.proxy. Import org.paros proxy.paros.network.http message. To change the template for this generated type comment go to Window, Preferences, Java, Code Generation, Code and Comments. Public Interface Proxy Listener. Public void ont prequest send, HTTP message. Public void ont pre-sponsor receive, HTTP message. Package org.paros proxy.paros.extension.history. Import org.apache.commons.client.http method. Import org.apache.commons.client.methods.entity enclosing method. Import org.apache.commons.client.methods.post method. Import java.awt.eventqueue. Import java.utilityregex.pattern. Import org.paros proxy.paros.core.proxy.proxy listener. Import org.paros proxy.paros.extension.view delegate. Import org.paros proxy.paros.model.history list. Import org.paros proxy.paros.model.history reference. Import org.paros proxy.paros.model.model. Import org.paros proxy.paros.network.http header. Import org.paros proxy.paros.network.http message. Import org.paros proxy.paros.network.http status code. To change the template for this generated type comment go to Window, Preferences, Java, Code Generation, Code and Comments. Public class proxy listener log implements proxy listener. Private view delegate view equals null. Private model equals null. Private history list equals null. Private pattern equals null. Private boolean is first access equals true. Public proxy listener log, model, view delegate view, history list. This dot model equals model. This dot view equals view. This dot history list equals history list. Public void set filter, string filter. If filter equals null filter dot equals pattern equals null. Else pattern equals pattern dot compile, filter, pattern dot case underscore insensitive pattern dot multiline. Non-javadoc. At ccom proof secure dot paros dot proxy handler number ont prequest received, org.apache.commons.client.http method. Public void ont prequest send, HTTP message. If message get request header, dot is image. Return. HTTP message existing message equals model dot get syscion, dot get id tree, dot poll path, message. Check if a message of the same type exist. If existing message equals null and existing message dot get response header, dot is empty. If HTTP status code dot is success, existing message dot get response header, dot get status code exist, no modification necessary. Return. If not, make sure a new copy will be obtained. If message get request header, dot get header, http header dot if underscore modified underscore since, equals null. Message get request header, dot seth either, http header dot if underscore modified underscore since, null. If message get request header, dot get header, http header dot if underscore none underscore match, equals null. Message get request header, dot seth either, http header dot if underscore none underscore match, null. Non-Javadoc. At ccom proof secure.paros.proxy handler number ont pre-spawn says end, org.apache.commons.client.http method, com proof secure.paros.proxy.http message. Public void ont pre-spawn receive, final http message. Int type equals history reference dot type underscore manual. If Skype image, message get request header, Skype image, message get response header. If message get response header, dot get status code, equals http status code dot ok. Type equals history reference dot type underscore hidden. Else. Return. Final int final type equals type. Thread t equals new thread, new runnable. Public void run. Add history, message, final type. T.start. Public boolean Skype image, http header. If header.is image, and model.get options param, .get view param, .is process images. Return true. Return false. Private void add history, http message, int type. History reference history ref equals null. Try. History ref equals new history reference, model.get syscion, type, message. Catch, exception e. Return. If type equals history reference dot type underscore manual and type equals history reference dot type underscore hidden. Return. Add history to list, log panel. Must use event queue because this proxy listener may not be run from event queue. Synchronized, history list. If type equals history reference dot type underscore manual. If pattern equals null. Add history in event queue, history ref. Else. String buffer sb equals new string buffer. sb append, message get request header, dot toString. sb append, message get request body, dot toString. If message get response header, dot is empty. sb append, message get response header, dot toString. sb append, message get response body, dot toString. If pattern dot matcher, sb toString, dot find. Add history in event queue, history ref. Add history to site panel. Must use event queue because this proxy listener may not be run from event queue. Final history reference ref equals history ref. Final http message final message equals message. If event queue.is dispatch thread. Model.get syscion, .get id tree, .add path, ref, message. If is first access. Is first access equals false. View.get id tree panel, .expand root. Else. Try. Event queue.invoke and wait, new runnable. Public void run. Model.get syscion, .get id tree, .add path, ref, final message. If is first access. is first access equals false. View.getSide tree panel, .expand root. Catch, exception e. Private void add history in event queue, final history reference ref. If, event queue.is dispatch thread. History list.add element, ref. Else. Try. Event queue.invoke and wait, new runnable. Public void run. History list.add element, ref. Catch, exception e. Package org.paros proxy.paros.extension.trap. Import java.awt.eventqueue. Import javax.swing.jtextarea. Import org.apache.commons.client.uri. Import org.apache.commons.client.uri exception. Import org.paros proxy.paros.core.proxy.proxy listener. Import org.paros proxy.paros.model.model. Import org.paros proxy.paros.network.http header. Import org.paros proxy.paros.network.http message. Import org.paros proxy.paros.view.http panel. Import org.paros proxy.paros.view.view. To change the template for this generated type comment, go to Window, Preferences, Java, Code Generation, Code and Comments. Public class proxy listener trap implements proxy listener. Private static java.lang.object semaphore equals new java.lang.object. Private trap panel equals null. Private trap aram equals null. Private model equals null. Public proxy listener trap, model, trap aram. This dot model equals model. This dot trap aram equals trap aram. At return returns the trap panel. Public trap panel get trapanel. Return trap panel. At param trap panel the trap panel to set. Public void set trapanel, trap panel. This dot trap panel equals trap panel. Non-javadoc. At ccom proof secure.paros.proxy handler number on prequest received, com proof secure.paros.network.http message. Public void on prequest send, http message. If, get trapanel, .get request, .is selected. Return. If, is Skype image, message get request header. Return. If, is skip filter, message, return. Synchronized, semaphore. Set trap display, message, true. Wait until continue, message, true. Private void set trap display, final http message, boolean is request. Stb display, get trapanel, message, is request. Try. Event queue.invoke and wait, new runnable. Public void run. View.getSingleton, .getMainFrame, .to front. Catch, exception e. Private void stb display, final http panel, final http message, final boolean is request. Try. Event queue.invoke and wait, new runnable. Public void run. http panel.set message, is request. Catch, exception e. Private void wait until continue, final http message, final boolean is request. Get trapanel, .set continue, false. While, get trapanel, .is continue. Try. Thread.sleep, 100. Catch, interrupted exception e. E.print stack trace. Try. Event queue.invoke and wait, new runnable. Public void run. Get trapanel, .get message, is request. Get trapanel, .set message, null, is request. Catch, exception ie. log pane.append, error underscore log, ie.get message. Non-javadoc. At ccom proof secure.paros.proxy handler number ont pre-spawns as end, com proof secure.paros.network.http message. Public void ont pre-spawns receive, http message. If, getTrPanel.getTrPresponse, is selected. Return. If, isSkypeImage, message getRequest header, isSkypeImage, message getResponse header. Return. If, isSkipFilter, message, return. Synchronized, semaphore. Set trap display, message, false. Wait until continue, message, false. Public string get header from jTextArea, jTextArea text area. String message equals textarea.getText. String result equals message replace all, \n, \r\n. Result equals result.replace all, \r \n, \z, plus \r\n. Return result. Public string replace header for jTextArea, string message. Return message replace all, \r \n. Public boolean isSkypeImage, http header. If, header.isImage, and, model.getOptionsParam.getViewParam.isProcessImages. Return true. Return false. Private boolean isSkipFilter, http message. Try. URI equals, URI, message getRequest header, .get URI, .clone. URI.setQuery, null. Strings URI equals URI.toString. If, traparam.isExclude, SURI. Return true. If, traparam.isInclude, SURI. Return true. Catch, URI exception E. Return false. Package org.parosproxy.paros.core.proxy. Import java.net.inet address. Import java.net.unknown host exception. Import org.parosproxy.paros.common.abstract param. To change the template for this generated type comment, go to Window, Preferences, Java, Code Generation, Code and Comments. Public class proxy param extends abstract param. Private static final string proxy equals proxy. Private static final string proxy underscore IP equals proxy.ip. Private static final string proxy underscore port equals proxy.port. Private static final string proxy underscore SSL underscore IP equals proxy.SSL IP. Private static final string proxy underscore SSL underscore port equals proxy.SSL port. Private static final string use underscore reverse underscore proxy equals proxy.reverse proxy.use. Private static final string reverse underscore proxy underscore IP equals proxy.reverse proxy.ip. Private static final string reverse underscore proxy underscore HTTP underscore port equals proxy.reverse proxy.http port. Private static final string reverse underscore proxy underscore HTTPS underscore port equals proxy.reverse proxy.https port. Private string proxy IP equals localhost. Private int proxy port equals 8080. Private int proxysl port equals 8443. Private int user reverse proxy equals 0. Private string reverse proxy IP equals localhost. Private int reverse proxit port equals 80. Private int reverse proxit port equals 443. Public proxy param. Protected void parse. Proxy IP equals getConfig, .getString, proxy underscore IP, localhost. Try. Proxy port equals getConfig, .getInt, proxy underscore port, 8080. Catch, exception E. Try. Proxyslport equals 8443, get config, .get int, proxy _SSL port, 8443. Catch, exception E. Reverse proxy IP equals get config, .get string, reverse proxy IP. If, reverse proxy IP equals signer recase, localhost, reverse proxy IP equals signer recase, 127.0.0.1. Try. Reverse proxy IP equals inet address .get localhost, .get host address. Catch, unknown host exception E1. E1.print stack trace. Reverse proxy port equals get config, .get int, reverse proxy HTTP port, 80. Reverse proxy port equals get config, .get int, reverse proxy HTTPS port, 443. User reverse proxy equals get config, .get int, use reverse proxy, 0. Public string get proxy IP. Return proxy IP. Public void set proxy IP, string proxy IP. This proxy IP equals proxy IP.trim. Get config, set property, proxy IP, this proxy IP. Public int get proxy port. Return proxy port. Public void set proxy port, int proxy port. This proxy port equals proxy port. Get config, set property, proxy port, integer toString, this proxy port. Public int get proxyslport. Return proxyslport. Public void set proxyslport, int proxyslport. This proxyslport equals proxyslport. Get config, set property, proxy SSL port, integer toString, this proxyslport. Public string get reverse proxy IP. Return reverse proxy IP. Public void reverse proxy IP, string reverse proxy IP. This reverse proxy IP equals reverse proxy IP.trim. Get config, set property, reverse proxy IP, this reverse proxy IP. Public int get reverse proxy port. Return reverse proxy port. Public void reverse proxy port, int reverse proxy port. This reverse proxy port equals reverse proxy port. Get config, set property, reverse proxy HTTP port, integer toString, this reverse proxy port. Public int get reverse proxy port. Return reverse proxy port. Public void reverse proxy port, int reverse proxy port. This reverse proxy port equals reverse proxy port. Get config, set property, reverse proxy HTTPS port, integer toString, this reverse proxy port. Public boolean ISC reverse proxy. Return, user reverse proxy, equals 0. Public void seed is a reverse proxy, boolean is use. If, is use. User reverse proxy equals 1. Get config, set property, use reverse proxy, integer toString, user reverse proxy. Return. User reverse proxy equals 0. Get config, set property, use reverse proxy, integer toString, user reverse proxy. Package org.paros proxy.paros.core.proxy. Import java.io.io exception. Import java.net.inet address. Import java.net.server socket. Import java.net.socket. Import java.net.socket timeout exception. Import java.net.unknown host exception. Import java.utility list. Import java.utility vector. Import org.apache.commons.client.protocol.protocol. Import org.apache.commons.client.protocol socket factory. Import org.paros proxy.paros.network.connection param. Import org.paros proxy.paros.network.http-util. Import org.paros proxy.paros.network.ssl connector. To change the template for this generated type comment, go to Window, Preferences, Java, Code Generation, Code and Comments. Public class proxy server implements runnable static protocol socket factory SSL factory equals null. Try protocol equals protocol.get protocol, HTTPS. SSL factory equals protocol.get socket factory. Catch, exception E. If SSL factory equals null, SSL factory instancy of SSL connector. Protocol.register protocol, HTTPS, new protocol, HTTPS, protocol socket factory, new SSL connector, 443. Protected thread equals null. Protected final static int port _time _out equals 0. Protected server socket proxy socket equals null. Protected boolean is proxy running equals false. Protected proxy param equals new proxy param. Protected connection param equals new connection param. Protected vector listener list equals new vector. Protected boolean serialize equals false. Protected boolean enable kket processing equals false. Protected vector cache processing list equals new vector. Protected int forward port equals 0. At return returns the enable kket processing. Public boolean is enable kket processing. Return enable kket processing. At param enable kket processing the enable kket processing to set. Public void seat enable kket processing, boolean enable kket processing. This enable kket processing equals enable kket processing. If enable kket processing. Cache processing list clear. At return returns the serialize. Public boolean is serialize. Return serialize. Public proxy server. Public void set proxy param, proxy param. Proxy param equals param. Public proxy param get proxy param. Return proxy param. Public void set connection param, connection param connection. Connection param equals connection. Public connection param get connection param. Return connection param. At return true equals the server is started successfully. Public synchronized int start server, string IP, int port, boolean is dynamic port. If is proxy running. Stop server. Is proxy running equals false. Thread equals new thread, this. Thread.set daemon, true. The priority below should be higher than normal to allow fast accept on the server socket. Thread.set priority, thread.norm _priority +1. Proxy socket equals null. 4, int I equals 0, I20 end proxy socket equals null, I++. Try. Proxy socket equals create server socket, IP, port. Proxy socket sets a timeout, port _time _out. Is proxy running equals true. Catch, exception E. If is dynamic port. E.print stack trace. Return -1. Else. If port 65535. Port ++. If proxy socket equals null. Return -1. Thread.start. Return proxy socket.get local port. Stop this server. At return true if server can be stopped. Public synchronized boolean stop server. If is proxy running. Return false. Is proxy running equals false. http://util.close server socket, proxy socket. Try. Thread.join, port _time _out. Catch, exception E. Proxy socket equals null. Return true. Public void run. Socket client socket equals null. Proxy thread process equals null. While, is proxy running. Try. Client socket equals proxy socket dot accept. Process equals create a proxy process, client socket. Process dot start. Catch, socket timeout exception e. Nothing, socket time reached only. Catch, IO exception e. Unknown IO exception, continue but with delay to avoid eating up CPU time if continue. Try. Thread.sleep, 100. E.print stack trace. Catch, interrupted exception E1. Protected server socket create server socket, string IP, int port, throws unknown host exception, IO exception. Server socket socket equals new server socket, port, 300, inet address. Get byname, IP, get proxy param, get proxy IP. Server socket socket equals new server socket, port, 400, inet address. Get byname, IP. Return socket. Protected proxy thread create a proxy process, socket client socket. Proxy thread process equals new proxy thread, this, client socket. Return process. Protected void write output, string s. Public void add proxy listener, listener. Listener list.add, listener. Public void remove proxy listener, listener. Listener list.remove, listener. Synchronized list get listener list. Return listener list. Public boolean isana proxy thread running. Return proxy thread.isana proxy thread running. At param serialize the serialize to set. Public void set serialize, boolean serialize. This dot serialize equals serialize. Public void add cache processing list, cache processing item. Cache processing list dot add, item. Vector get kket processing list. Return cache processing list. At return returns the forward port. Public int get forward port. Return forward port. At param forward port the forward port to set. Public void set forward port, int forward port. This dot forward port equals forward port. Package org.paros proxy.paros.core.proxy. Import java.io exception. Import java.net.inet address. Import java.net.server socket. Import java.net.socket. Import java.net.unknown host exception. Import org.paros proxy.paros.network. To change the template for this generated type comment go to Window, Preferences, Java, Code Generation, Code and Comments. Public class proxy servers SSL extends proxy server. Private static SSL connector SSL equals HTTP sender.get slow connector. Public proxy servers SSL. Super. Protected server socket create server socket, string IP, int port, throws unknown host exception, IO exception. Server socket equals SSL.listen, port, 300, inet address. Get byname, get proxy param, get proxy IP. Server socket equals SSL.listen, port, 300, inet address. Get byname, IP. Return socket. Protected proxy thread create a proxy process, socket client socket. Proxy threads SSL process equals new proxy threads SSL, this, client socket. Return process. Package org.paros proxy.paros.core.proxy. Import java.io.buffered input stream. Import java.io.buffered output stream. Import java.io.io exception. Import java.net.socket. Import java.net.socket exception. Import java.net.socket timeout exception. Import java.utility array list. Import java.utility list. Import java.utility vector. Import java.utility regex.pattern. Import org.apache.commons.client.uri. Import org.apache.commons.client.uri exception. Import org.apache.commons.logging.log. Import org.apache.commons.logging.log factory. Import org.parosproxy.paros.db.record history. Import org.parosproxy.paros.model.model. Import org.parosproxy.paros.network.connection.param. Import org.parosproxy.paros.network.http body. Import org.parosproxy.paros.network.http header. Import org.parosproxy.paros.network.http input stream. Import org.parosproxy.paros.network.http message. Import org.parosproxy.paros.network.http output stream. Import org.parosproxy.paros.network.http request header. Import org.parosproxy.paros.network.http sender. Import org.parosproxy.paros.network.http util. To change the template for this generated type comment, go to Window, Preferences, Java, Code Generation, Code and Comments. Class Proxy Thread implements runnable. Private static final int time underscore out equals 60,000. Private static final int buffered stream underscore size equals 4096. Private static final string connect underscore http underscore 200 equals http 1.1200 connection established /r/n proxy connection, keep alive /r/n/r/n. Private static array list process forward list equals new array list. Private static log equals log factory.get log, proxy thread.class. Change HTTP sender to static to be shared among proxies to reuse keep alive connections. Protected proxy server parent server equals null. Protected proxy param equals null. Protected connection param equals null. Protected thread equals null. Protected socket in socket equals null. Protected socket out socket equals null. Protected HTTP input stream HTTP in equals null. Protected HTTP output stream HTTP out equals null. Protected proxy thread origin process equals this. Private HTTP sender equals null. Private buffered output stream forward out equals null. Private buffered input stream forward in equals null. Private boolean disconnect equals false. Private object semaphore equals this. Private static object semaphore singleton equals new object. Private thread forward thread equals null. Private static vector proxy thread list equals new vector. Proxy thread, proxy server, socket. In socket equals socket. Try. In socket.set nodelay, true. In socket.sets a timeout, 60,000. Catch, socket exception e. Thread equals new thread, this. Thread.set daemon, true. Thread.set priority, thread.norm underscore priority 1. Parent server equals server. Proxy param equals parent server.get proxy param. Connection param equals parent server.get connection param. Public void start. Thread.start. Private void begin SSL, throws IO exception. Boolean is secure equals true. HTTP request header first theater equals null. In socket equals HTTP sender.get slow connector, create a tunnel server socket, in socket. HTTP in equals new HTTP input stream, in socket. HTTP out equals new HTTP output stream, in socket.get output stream. first theater equals HTTP and .read request header, is secure. Process HTTP, first theater, is secure. Public void run. Proxy threadlist.add, thread. Boolean is secure equals this instance of proxy threads is L. HTTP request header first theater equals null. Try. HTTP in equals new HTTP input stream, in socket. HTTP out equals new HTTP output stream, in socket.get output stream. First theater equals HTTP and .read request header, is secure. If, first theater.get method, equals ignore case, HTTP request header.connect. HTTP out.write, connect underscore HTTP underscore 200. HTTP out.flush. Begin SSL. Process forward port. Else. Process HTTP, first theater, is secure. Catch, IO exception E. Log.warn, E.get message. Finally. Proxy threadlist.remove, thread. Disconnect. Protected void process HTTP, HTTP request header, Boolean is secure, throws IO exception. HTTP body req body equals null. Boolean is first request equals true. HTTP message equals null. If, is recursive, request header. Throw new IO exception, recursive request to proxy itself stopped. Reduce socket timeout after first read. In socket.sets a timeout, 2500. 2. If, is first request. Is first request equals false. Else. Try. Request header equals HTTP and .read request header, is secure. Catch, socket timeout exception E. Return. Message equals new HTTP message. Message request header, If, message get request header, get content length, 0. req body equals HTTP and .read body, request header. Message request body, req body. Modify header, message. If, is process cache, message. Continue. System.out.println, send required, plus message get request header, get URI, toString. If, parent server.iserialize. Semaphore equals semaphore singleton. Else. Semaphore equals this. Synchronized, semaphore. Nota Phyllis and Airquest send, message. Try. Bug occur where response cannot be processed by various listener. First so streaming feature was disabled. Get sender, send and receive, message, HTTP out, buffer. Get sender, send and receive, message. Nota Phyllis and response receive, message. Write out response header and body. HTTP out.write, message get response header. HTTP out.flush. If, message get response body, length, 0. HTTP out.write, message get response body, get bytes. HTTP out.flush. Notify written to forward proxy. Catch, IO exception E. Throw E. Release semaphore. While, is connection close, message, and, in socket. Is closed. Private Boolean is connection close, HTTP message. If, message equals null message get response header, is empty. Return true. If, message get request header, is connection close. Return true. If, message get response header, is connection close. Return true. If, message get response header, get content length, equals -1 and message get response body, length, 0. No length and body 0 must terminate, otherwise cannot. There is no way for client browser to know the length. Terminate early can give better response by client. Return true. Return false. Protected void disconnect. Try. If httpin equals null. httpin.close. Catch, exception e. Try. If httpout equals null. httpout.close. Catch, exception e. httputil.close socket, in socket. If http sender equals null. http sender.shutdown. Private void process forward port. Stream forwarder equals null. Set disconnect, false. Try. Synchronized, process forward list. Out socket equals new socket, proxy param.get proxy ip, parent server.get forward port. Out socket.set node lay, true. Process forward list.add, this. Forward out equals new buffered output stream, out socket.get output stream. Forward in equals new buffered input stream, out socket.get input stream. Forwarder equals new stream forwarder, in socket, http in, forward out. Forwarder.start. Byte buffer equals new byte buffered stream underscore size 2. Int len equals -1. Long start time equals system.current to me millis. Int continuous count equals 0. Out socket.sets a timeout, 150. 2. Try. Len equals forward in.read, buffer. If, len 0. http out.write, buffer, 0, len. http out.flush. Start time equals system.current to me millis. Continuous count plus plus. If, continuous count %10 equals 9, thread.yield, time slice to avoid same thread occupy all CPU time. Catch, socket timeout exception x. Len equals 0. Continuous count equals 0. If, len 0. Continue. Else. If, forward in dot available, equals 0. Set forward input buffer empty, true. If, system.current to me millis, start time underscore out. Break. While, is disconnect. Catch, exception e. Shower massage, error connecting to internal SSL proxy. Finally. If, forward thread, equals null. Forward thread.interrupt. If, forwarder, equals null. Forwarder.set stop, true. Remove from list, end forward port processing. httputil.close input stream, forward in. httputil.close output stream, forward out. httputil.close socket, out socket. Protected void remove from list. Synchronized, process forward list. Process forward list.remove, this. Protected synchronized boolean is disconnect. Return disconnect. Protected synchronized void set disconnect, boolean flag. Disconnect equals flag. Private boolean is forward input buffer empty equals true. Set if tunnel buffer empty. At param buffer empty true if tunnel buffer is empty. Protected synchronized void set forward input buffer empty, boolean buffer empty. This dot is forward input buffer empty equals buffer empty. Check if tunnel buffer empty here. At return true equals tunnel buffer is empty. Protected synchronized boolean is forward input buffer empty. Try. If, forward in dot available, 0. Set forward input buffer empty, false. Catch, exception e. Return is forward input buffer empty. Protected static proxy thread get originating process, int remote pertusing. Proxy thread process equals null. Synchronized, process forward list. 4, int I equals 0, I process forward list dot size, I++. Process equals, proxy thread, process forward list dot get, I. If, process dot out socket dot get local port, equals remote pertusing. Return process. Return null. Public thread get thread. Return thread. Private void notify written to forward proxy. If origin process equals null. Return. Synchronized origin process. Origin process dot set forward input buffer empty, false. Origin process dot notify. Go through each observers to process a request in each observers. The method can be modified in each observers. At param HTTP message. Private void notify listener request send, HTTP message. Proxy listener equals null. List listener list equals parent server dot get listener list. 4. Int I equals 0, I listener list dot size, I++. Listener equals, proxy listener list dot get, I. Try. Listener dot on prequest send, HTTP message. Catch, exception E. Go through each observers and process the HTTP message in each observers. The message can be changed by each observers. At param message. Private void notify listener response receive, HTTP message. Proxy listener equals null. List listener list equals parent server dot get listener list. 4. Int I equals 0, I listener list dot size, I++. Listener equals, proxy listener list dot get, I. Try. Listener dot on response receive, HTTP message. Catch, exception E. Private boolean is recursive, HTTP request header. Boolean is recursive equals false. Try. URI equals header dot get URI. If URI dot get host dot equals proxy param dot get proxy IP. If URI dot get port equals proxy param dot get proxy port. Is recursive equals true. Catch, exception E. Return is recursive. Private static final pattern remove underscore xip1 equals pattern dot compile, xip deflate compress x xip x compress, comma, \\s, pattern dot case underscore insensitive. Private static final pattern remove underscore xip2 equals pattern dot compile, comma \\z, pattern dot case underscore insensitive. Private void modify header, HTTP message. String encoding equals message get request header, dot get header, HTTP header dot accept underscore encoding. If encoding equals null. Return. Encoding equals remove underscore xip1 dot matcher, encoding, dot replace all. Encoding equals remove underscore xip2 dot matcher, encoding, dot replace all. Avoid returning xip encoding. If encoding dot length equals 0. Encoding equals null. Message get request header, dot seth header, HTTP header dot accept underscore encoding. Message get request header, dot seth header, t, chunked, q equals 0. Protected HTTP sender get sender. If HTTP sender equals null. HTTP sender equals new HTTP sender, connection param, true. Return HTTP sender. Static boolean isana proxy thread running. Return, proxy threadlist dot is empty. Protected boolean is process cache, HTTP message, throws IO exception. If parent server dot isnable kcat processing. Return false. If parent server dot get kcat processing list dot is empty. Return false. Cache processing item equals cache processing item, parent server dot get kcat processing list dot get 0. If message equals item dot message. HTTP message new message equals item dot message dot clone all. Message response header, new message dot get response header. Message response body, new message dot get response body. HTTP out dot write, message get response header. HTTP out dot flush. If message get response body, length 0. http out.write, message get response body, get bytes. http out.flush. Return true. Else. Try. Record history equals model.get singleton, .get db, .gettable history, .get historycac, item.reference, message. If history equals null. Return false. Message response header, history.getP message, .get response header. Message response body, history.getP message, .get response body. http out.write, message get response header. http out.flush. If message get response body, length 0. http out.write, message get response body, get bytes. http out.flush. System.out.println, cached plus message get request header, get URI, toString. Return true. Catch, exception E. Return true. Return false. Protected void set forward thread, thread forward thread. This forward thread equals forward thread. Package org.paros proxy.paros.core.proxy. Import java.net.socket. Import org.paros proxy.paros.network.http-util. To change the template for this generated type comment, go to Window, Preferences, Java, Code Generation, Code and Comments. Public class proxy threads as L extends proxy thread. Proxy threads as L, proxy servers as L server, socket. Super, server, socket. Origin process equals proxy thread.get originating process, in socket.get port. If origin process equals null. Origin process.set forward thread, thread.set priority, thread.norm_priority 1. Protected void disconnect. Long start time equals system.current to me millis. While origin process equals null and origin process.is forward input buffer empty, and system.current to me millis, start time 3000. http://util.sleep, 300. If origin process equals null. Origin process.set disconnect, true. Try. Origin process.get thread, .join, 2000. Catch, interrupted exception E. Super.disconnect.